So thank you to everybody for joining us again at this session. This panel is on technology. And the idea of this panel is technology is really transforming shipping. And shipping companies are being faced with so many options, so many alternatives, and so many needs. So we would like to have a panel where ship owners can discuss how they prioritize among the various needs, investments, opportunities that they have in front of them. So I would like to thank all the panelists for being with us. I will turn over to Pino Spadafora from RINA, who is going to be our moderator and who is going to introduce our panelists. And all I would like to say is thank you very much for being with us today and contributing to this great forum. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I would like to thank Nicholas and, of course, all Capital Link team for having me as a moderator of this panel, which is full of actual and very relevant topics. Digital transformation trend is still gaining momentum, and we are over now the point where utilizing of latest technology is and was a prerogative for few. The pandemic launched big changes in the way of working, in demands and requirements of customers and markets. So companies, they really need to adapt to digital transformation if they want to preserve their business and stay in the business. But let's move to our panelists. I have the pleasure and the honor to work together with. And I will introduce each of them, starting from Salvatore D'Amico, which is Fleet Director of D'Amico Shipping, Ernst Meyer, COO at Klaveness, Mark Martecchini, Managing Director, Stolt Management, and Christopher Schröder, Head of Regional Sales for Wartsila Voyage. So let's start from Salvatore. And of course, within the domain of digital transformation, D'Amico Shipping is paving a lot of plans, mainly, but not only, to acquire and monitoring data thanks to digital tools. But Salvatore, can you share with us which kind of projects you are doing, you are busy with actually, and which kind of investment you have made to realize them? Thanks.
So, as you know, D'Amico has always paid a lot of attention in order to be among the pioneer in the market when it came to ship design. But we understood, and ship operation, but we understood very well that since when this technology thing started, that if we really wanted to be on the top of the crest of the wave, we needed to really look into technology with a completely different approach. At the beginning, we started to look in the market for ready suites which could fulfill all our requirements, but there was no way in which we could find things that were matching our, let's say, our requirements. I would not talk about standard because, but I would talk about requirements. Today, thanks to the partnership we have, among which there is one very important that we have with RINA, we managed to develop several softwares. In particular, since you are working for RINA, Pino, I would like to highlight that we developed together with your company a very good software for the monitoring of our vessel emissions and monitoring of our vessel consumption. We started this journey together 6 or 7 years ago, and today we reached a completely different place from where we were at the beginning. During this journey, we managed to achieve a lot of things, including bringing ashore the complete monitoring of the main engine and of the auxiliary engine, which is also very helpful in terms of maintenance. And in fact, we are moving our maintenance from what we used to call hour run maintenance to condition-based maintenance, which doesn't go only to the monitoring of the equipment by parameters, but also obviously about analysis and so on. On top of that, we have also done with you the first software to be approved by a flag, which was Liberia at the time, for the oil record book. And in fact, we are using this on board of all our vessels today. also those that where the flag doesn't allow us to not have the normal oil record book. I mean, we still have to have the paper one, but we see a big advantage in using the oil record book software because it helps a lot the crew in managing all the management of the waste on board and so on. And bottom line, it's not only about oil, but it goes down to every waste which is manageable. And this is a little bit to talk about RINA. I could easily talk about the rest, but I think that this is enough as a starting point.
Thank you so much, Salvatore. So you touch a very good point when you indicate CBM, continuous based monitoring, as a new approach, which of course is allowing you to cut cost, but also to improve the way of doing maintenance. Ernst, digitization first and also digitalization now, of course, demands a very specific approach and interface man-machine. So a lot of talks about artificial intelligence, machine learning, but the point is that crew offshore, so on board, and crew on shore, so technical superintendent, they need probably a different level of digital culture. They need a dedicated training for this kind of tools. How are you dealing with this topic, which of course is extremely important if you want to realize a proper digital transformation?
I think, to be very honest, it's a discovery, I think, that we have made, that it's not possible to digitalize the fleet unless you have skilled people on board. There are certain things you can do, which is purely under the hood type of technology, where the people on board do not have to relate, where data is transmitted automatically and IT equipment is put in place and operated remotely, and then you have no problem. But in reality, you need also to run IT systems on board, IT, OT systems being part of the digitalization. And for years, we have developed key positions on board, also regulated by conventions and by flag and minimum manning and so on. And we know that we have, you need a cook, you need people running the engine, and you need people on the bridge. But I have not seen any official titles or requirements to IT. And maybe it's too early to really require it and put some mandatory requests on that. But who is responsible for IT on board, and what kind of skills, qualification skills, should such a person have? And I think the default today is to put that on the ship electrician's shoulders, if there is a ship electrician on board. But I think we all understand that being an electrician is not the same as being an IT skilled person. The only commonality there are the cables, but that's it. So I think to really progress on this, the industry as a whole should also contribute to make more formal competency around basic IT action.
So basically, you are supporting the crew and the people on board, for sure, with the vendors or with the companies that they are providing this kind of new technology to you and your assets, basically.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Ernst. Thank you very much, Mark. The market for new building, of course, today it looks like again in favor of the shipyard, especially if we look to China and Korea. But the digital maturity of a ship, of a new building, should start for sure when you define a technical specification, and we should define basic standards for the shipyard and for the ship owners, to make, especially to the ship owners, their life a little bit easier later on. The industry doesn't look ready to define and specify a uniform approach standards in this respect. What do you think? And if you are considering any new buildings, do you think this is a good approach? Is a real good one?
It's an interesting question, Pino. Thanks for that. If you look at the airline industry, they have relatively few suppliers, and they approach each plane with a very integrated systems approach. Everything is part of a bigger picture. When it comes to shipbuilding, I get the sense that we are still, going to a yard that is, assembling a number of components and pieces. Yes, there is, of course, an underlying system, but not nearly to the level of system sophistication of integration that one might expect. And again, I think it's to an extent the way we build ships. Each yard goes and tries to find with the sub-suppliers, that fit the overall cost picture of building that ship. And, the shipyard is trying to typically lower the cost and not necessarily deliver the maximum value. The ship owner would like to lower the cost, but has to live with the ship for 25 or more years. And a ship that should, in fact, deliver sustainability and all of the integration we talk about, that Salvatore and Ernst talk about already. So there's a little bit of an interesting question. The shipyard problem has to be worked on. Standards will help, no doubt. Yes, we're in the market now, of course, looking for ships ourselves. Any owner has to do that to replace and renew their fleet. But it's not easy getting a lot of emphasis to spend quite a bit of money on systems integration when it's not so easy to define the ultimate value we get from that. But I think, of course, when we start to look at more sustainability-linked equipments, especially with the more exotic propulsion packages we talk about now, we will have to get there, but I think we're still struggling a bit to get to that standard.
Thank you, Mark. Christopher, probably you represent Wartsila, okay, Wartsila Voyage, but in general, Wartsila is a big player in the market also of a new building. Can you add something on this respect? Because this sounds a very, very interesting topic.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pino. Well, on the standardization, indeed, and having common standards, that is a very interesting topic that we are discussing with the many stakeholders in the industry. It is actually quite challenging because when we're honest, we look at the maritime industry and we see that we still have a different approach from our customer base. And so it still requires a little bit of a customized approach. But actually, and I'm fully with you there, the big saving potential, the big rationale that we can lift here is by becoming a little bit more standardized, a little bit more, cooperative, and ensuring that it's not always the reinvention of a wheel that we have to do. We believe that this will actually help very much the industry.
Christopher, let me stay a little bit on this. So we are talking about standardization, uniform approach. So for sure, a concerted approach to the digitalization can support and can make the pace of its progress a little bit more solid, because apparently transformation is still moving slowly. Why? What is the reason that transformation is still going slowly? Probably, do we need less solo pilot approach and more partnership approach, shipyard vendors, ship owners, makers in general? And what is your opinion? I mean, regulatory bodies, are they helping in this process?
A very good question, thank you. Well, maybe to add on what Mark said, it's the question on how to build value, how to get value out of a ship and ensure that a vessel is sustainable and an asset to you, and to ensure this over the lifetime of a vessel. So the digital transformation, actually, yes, it might be perceived as slow at the moment, but I do actually see this very much like a slow curve that really starts to take off. when I sort of recap the conversations we had with our clients and customers over the year, then the discussions actually dramatically changed just in the last year. Whereas sort of connecting shipboard equipment using internet ashore was, yeah, is this something we can do 2 years ago? It's not a question anymore. So I would like to say the maritime industry is maybe further ahead of this than we might give credit to ourselves here. And I do see that the whole discussion on digitalization really, really takes up. It is indeed a question of actually running a vessel. So it's nothing that is a done topic, it's a doing topic. It is something that you have to, to develop while we go, because even we have a big team, dedicated people, really good skilled people, we don't have the full answer yet. And that's what when you say, do we need to work together? Yes, absolutely. Because the digital transformation will only work if it's actually tapping into the business processes of our customers, the shipping companies, ship owners. And here, there's a big potential when we look about the challenges that we have ahead of us, from greenhouse gases, CO2, and all also the then affecting topics about ship financing. Here, it's not so much, well, me personally, I don't believe that government bodies will be the driving force here. It's you and me as consumers, you, me as citizens who vote for a certain policy, who want that our economy is a little bit more eco-friendly, that we're a little bit more sustainable. And that is actually the driving force. So we will have pilot projects, because pilot projects is something you need to start it up. But then, and that's what we really are after, and that's what we are discussing with our customers, we are going in a partnership. Because, and I see this is one of the things that is different from classical investment, so to speak, as in you put something in a ship and then you let it sail for the next 20 years. We now need to talk about how to operate vessels, how to maneuver them, how we make sure that they are safe and efficient at the same time. And we as a manufacturer, we can just help, but it's something that we would like to do in a partnership with our customers.
Well done. So, I mean, partnership, good word for proposing new projects and facilitating, of course, transformation. Salvatore, can I come back to you, because in this pandemic situation, for sure, resilient has been used, probably overused, but for sure, resilience is a term which picture very well the capacity of the shipping and the maritime industry in finding always alternatives and other solutions. And for sure, an alternative has been the use and the introduction of a remote inspection. And you, D'Amico Shipping, you have been really a pioneer in this. Probably also thanks to a wise approach of like administration as a Liberia and RINA as a classification society, but you have been the first one conducting a full annual survey in remote condition. Do you think this will really change the future of doing service on board? And what is the position now of the stakeholders in this respect?
So I think that I wish to really thank you for raising this point, because I think that this is a very major game changer. I don't foresee virtual inspection replacing completely the physical inspection. That is not the solution, but rather having a much more structured approach to the problem. Now, let's imagine a vessel leaving Brazil, and the vessel leaving Brazil suddenly has, I don't know, a collision, or has or something happens on board, for which we have to inform class. Okay, what would have helped? What would have happened up to now is that usually either that vessel was turning was turning around and going back to the harbor, or class would say, you need to stop in Cape Town because we need to do an inspection. Class or flag according to the certificate which is affected. The game changer is that from today, we are able to call class and say, this is what happened, we have this problem, can we have a look at this together? And this is very important for the owner, because the owner, as you know, in order to have the vessel covered by his insurance policy, and in order to ensure, moreover, the safety of his crew, wants to have the vessel in class. And so having the possibility to have the class saying in any moment, okay, like this you can proceed, or no, sorry, you need to do this temporary repair before going to next port, or we are fine having a look at this, and that and in the ultimate harbor is not a matter of only saving money, but it's a matter of ensuring that the vessel always operates at the highest safety standard, which to me goes down to the most important thing, which is ensuring that our seafarers have on board the same safe environment that people working ashore have. And this is one point. Another point, Pino, I wanted to highlight, because I heard a lot talking about sustainability in our business and so on, and I'm happy that this work came out also on this panel. One of the very good things about what software helped us do, technology helped us do, was forcing our vessel to make a mind change. Before, in the past, we used to tell to the vessel, okay, you need to be by that day in that point, okay? And what would happen is that master would go fast, 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 and suddenly when he was approaching that point, he was starting to slow down in order to reach at what we would say the just in time to what we have told him. But that was not helpful in terms of consumption. We were just putting in the air CO2, more than what was needed. With the current technology that is on board installed on our vessel, we are able to tell to our ships, you need to go at this kilowatt. They don't care anymore about speed. They care about power. And caring about power means caring about emissions. We need to call our ship. We can call our ship and say, why are you using 2 auxiliary engines in place of 1? And to ensure that our ships operate always at the highest standard of environmental compliance, because it is very important. If we reduce the consumption, we consume less, but this is not the point. The point is that we emit less. For any ton of fuel which is burned, we emit 3 tons of CO2. That's the point.
So basically, Salvatore, you are saying, of course, correctly, that digitalization is also decarbonization. So this is a very good assist to ask again, Christopher, to comment on this, because voyage optimization and just-in-time solution surely they give the possibility to reduce CO2 emission and the greenhouse gas emission. Slow steaming is just a transitional solution, can help. For sure will increase the numbers of ships on the water, and this we do not dislike. But what do you think, and what are you doing in Wartsila Voyage? Because this is really something which is relevant to you.
Thank you very much. And Salvatore, this is exactly also what we are discussing and experiencing with a lot of our customers. So the approach of having visibility, of understanding what your vessels are actually doing, and that in a data increment which is shorter than 24 hours, that helps very much to understand the actual behavior. And I think also what Ernst brought up is how important it is that the crew actually understands what's important and requested of them. So when we as a society, when we as a shipping community have actually the goal of having less emissions, of sailing more efficiently and safer, then this is something that needs to be done together with the crew and with the shore team, with the ship ownership manager and charter. And then this requires basically that you have a common platform on which you discuss a common data set. And that is where these tools come in very helpful, because it helps to discuss the same topic and not 3 topics at the same time. So, and then it actually adds further, and the topic of digitalization as in a means of improving business processes drives further to the end of when you now start to integrate ports and ports give in a easy and directly linked format the information about their availability to the vessels, then a vessel can, well in advance, adjust the speed and with its consumption and exhaust in order to, maybe, slow down and sail a little bit slower, because they already know they're going to have to wait an extra day at the port. And it's not that the maritime industry has never thought about it or that this information is not being shared. It's just that we go through so many stakeholders that the time until information is being received on the vessel and decision is being made, basically, you could just continue to sail. So, and this is the idea that Voyage has, and that we would like to discuss with our customers and partners in trying to look at the Voyage and see, here we are, there we want to go. How can we do this in the most efficient and the most safe way? And one thing that we also sort of discovered is, if I may add here, just discussing sort of voyage performance targets as in speed or voyage plans without considering safety has often the fact that the crew on board is looking at it as in, yeah, I understand what the intention is, but I just need to, take care on the safety as well. So we try to look at this, just to name the word, holistically, and see safety and navigation in one, have transparency that the office and the crew share the same data, and then extend this to the other parties like ports to have a really bigger picture. And then we believe that we have here the biggest lever of the savings that we need.
Thank you so much, Christopher. I see from the audience there is a very interesting question. Will digitalization increase or reduce the workload of crew? Have we considered the human element? Yes, of course, we touched before the topic when together with Ernst, we were considering eventually a new approach to the education of the crew on board. But to reply to this question, Mark, please allow me to touch also another topics, because Salvatore was talking about electronic logbook. A lot of process on board, they entered a digital transformation, not only the use of paperless logs. And this, I think, is extremely well appreciated by crew, because they are always overwhelmed, as our friend was saying with this question, from various tasks. But digitalization is also improving, a solid digitalization on board is improving the safety level on board. I know you are doing some project in this respect. So how do you see an increase of safety with the more digitalization on board of your ship?
Good question, Pino. It's very much developmental, but what we see is there's great opportunity to, and it needs to be designed in, shall we say it this way, to improve the working condition on board ship, to reduce unnecessary workload by automation, by using digital tools. One of the things that those who have been in the business for a while know is, yes, you have a paper-based system or even a spreadsheet-based system, but when it relies so much on people putting data in, whether it's an approval checklist or what have you, there is often, you find things are not done as they should be, which can lead to unsafe situations. So, for example, what we're now piloting is a project whereby before you go into a cargo tank, and we run chemical tankers, going into cargo tanks is something we must do for every voyage to confirm the cleaning of the tank. And so it's an important procedure to be done safely. And if it can be done on paper, it's very safe. But what we find, for example, is that, if we have a handheld device where people can signal to the appropriate people on the bridge in the cargo control room about what steps need to be taken, important steps to log about safe things, the tank, the atmospheric testing, for example, can be logged. All of these important logging points can be done. The approvals can be done in an efficient way to make life simpler and in fact safer. That's one example, but there are many examples around the ship that we can think of that will come up for sure. But I think as Ernst and Salvatore were saying earlier, there's no package out today where somebody offers all of this. So we're finding our way, maybe feeling our way in the dark a little bit, and we'll come up with these great solutions. But it does take time and take some effort and initiative and investment to come up with those solutions. But there's going to be a great, I think, explosion of products and means to get those things done over the future.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Ernst. We have listened Salvatore talking about monitoring, installation of torque meters, flow meters for allowing CBM. But digitalization, we understood, also give you the possibility almost to have on board 24/7 an expert from vendors, from makers, from stakeholders. Are you really taking advantage of this? I mean, do you see really an opportunity for improving the management of your fleet, which is an important fleet?
Yeah, I think piece by piece it happens, and of course it's not happening all at once. But to give you one good example of what we are doing is in a fleet of 25 vessels, you may have say 150 cylinders approximately from the main engines. And if you imagine 150 cylinders on a control screen at shore with real-time information about how much iron each of those cylinders are having, which should indicate how much lubrication oil you should use. And you have kind of a control room person monitoring those 150 cylinders and giving instructions to the ship how to lubricate or even remotely operate the lubrication system. Then you have moved a tremendous task from being kind of something between a superintendent and a chief, based on experience, what the chief is hearing, smelling, the performance of the engine. And local practices may occur. Some like to run 2 auxiliary engines on 50% load each, so they shall be evenly wear down, and others say that's more efficient to just do one. And you have all these different practices that can lead into one practice that is proven to be the most efficient one. So in a sense, it's kind of pivoting the whole management around how you maintain and operate the vessel. That before it was very vertical, it was between some very few people. Even you had 20 similar ships, you could have maybe 10 different management styles around how you operate equipment. But with this, with digitalization, you can pivot and do horizontal management and have experts working across certain disciplines. And I think digitalization is allowing for that. Without having the data flowing, you could never do that, and you have to stick to the old practices.
Thank you, Ernst. With the Mark, we were touching the point of digitalization, which improves the safety level, the safety standard on board of our ships. But digitalization, for what you are saying, gives also the opportunity to you, which manage several ships. So it means you have to take care also about a lot of people on board. So a lot of components of crew to keep them safe a little bit, because if you have the possibility to solve situations, problems on remote, you make less intrusions, less physical interferes with your ship. So actually you are keeping your ship, your crew within a safety bubble, and this for sure will reduce the possibility of pandemics, infection, as we have seen in the last months. So have you had some experience in this respect? I mean, are you convinced that this digitalization can help also in this respect with your crew? Ernst, you are muted.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't get the question was for me. But it really does. I think it's opening up for so many different values, and safety is one of them. You can use digitalization to create safety as a value. The same with the greener aspect and of course business. But I think what you need is gravity, and if the gravity is not there, meaning that if you don't see fairly quick results on the safety side, it will stop automatically. Then there is no value to it, and it will disappear. I think the reason why this is holding so much traction, and we may think that we talk a lot and nothing happens, but I do think a lot happens. And to give you one more concrete example is how we used to climb tanks to give inspection reports to charters that wants a certain quality on the cleanliness. And we were sending people up ladders to do some testing, and now we can do this by cameras. And we can do it even live. We can have cameras wired up so that instead of having people coming out to the vessel, we just put the camera on the IMO number to validate what we are looking at, and can zoom into really high quality pictures in every corner of the tank, which everything is lined up. It's extremely simple example of digitalization, and far away from artificial intelligence or what we may think about, but it's really helpful in the daily work. And it makes sense in terms of business. We save so many hours on this, and it makes sense in terms of safety. So in many cases, you kill two flies in one shot.
Ernst, thank you so much. I see there are other questions. One more is relevant to standardization of documents. Why cannot we push and uniform for simplicity through IMO? Sure, digitalization is one of the tools which will help us. I mean, digitalizing logbooks, not only oil record book, but ballast, garbage, deck engine, and engine logs. This for sure will help to digitalize and to standardize certain kind of documents and formats. And another question is, IMO has come up with the minimum requirements for digitalization of data. Not yet. The only data collection uniformed is the IMO DCS, which is more relevant, of course, to the emission, but not yet when it comes to data collection, modality of the data collection. Christoph, another point, also because we are talking about data, big data, all this data, we need also to change a little bit the approach. The way they are collecting, of course, we need more democratic and more transparent data. Do you think the industry and the shipping is ready for this? Are they ready to look at this big data with a different approach and with this new approach? After all, conducting service inspection is now have a certain safety level. So what about the data? How we can democratize this data?
Well, it's a very tough question, to be honest, but a good one. Well, I think to some extent the data is actually already quite available in a democratic way. When we just look at so many startups that are looking at the AIS data from the vessel sailing and then generate insights out of this, there is already a lot happening and massively endeavors, and here artificial intelligence is used and big data aggregations used, are being already done to find out actually information about you, not necessarily with you. So now the question that actually comes up is, how much do you want to know about yourself? That is the question that you need to ask yourself, and then that's also then what's driving the discussion at some stage. The data is sort of, as we all know, data is sort of the new gold, and so it's a very business critical decision what to do with the data. We are very simple with it in Wartsila, that we say it's your data, it's your data, and it's your data. It's yours and stays yours. And with every project that we do, there's not a single project where we are not required to put an API, sort of a data exchange between a proprietary system with our customers. So I do believe that when we think about, will there be one unified overall data platform? Super hard to tell. I don't want to go out and just make the call here, but we will see for sure that there will be more and more data shared. There will be more and more data available, and that is just simply looking at other ways of life in which this is absolutely happening. So just think about your own LinkedIn profile. People share about themselves because it's a prerequisite to stay in business.
Christopher, there is a question for you. Could you explain what we as an operator can immediately benefit from reducing cost and reducing CO2?
So how you are benefiting from reducing cost?
I mean,
so
I think is an obvious answer, and from reducing CO2 is also a quite obvious answer, especially when you look at the recent IMO requirements for existing ship and for new ships. But if you want to add something on this respect, please.
Yeah, it's sort of basically the only thing that I see, and I think it's a little bit overlooked, because when we have these discussions in the maritime domain, then we very often mention IMO, and then we very quickly come up with the regulatory bodies. But I think the true changing force that is really driving this forward is not in any way a government or regulatory body. It's very much you and me who are changing our buying behavior, as I sort of tried to list it at the beginning. And that's really the change of force here. And when we now talk about this topic, disruption, I don't want to elaborate on this because there's opinions about it. But think of it as, will your neighbor be accepting that when they go to the supermarket, they don't have a full transparency over the full supply chain for the goods that they're buying, when it comes to CO2 emissions, when it comes to environmental footprint? And I do believe that we have strong forces that are driving in this direction, so that as the cars over the years got more safer, got more cleaner, the same will potentially happen also in shipping.
Thank you so much, Christopher. So basically, what we can conclude is that, of course, I don't. Yes, there are other questions, but we can conclude saying that, of course, capex are extremely important and very good spend. If we look at this specific topic, we are talking about reducing of cost. We are talking about decarbonization, reduction of emission at all level, and we are of course talking about increase safety level on board of the ship. So digitalization helps also in the last months to change a new management approach. Change management, agility management is something which goes along with the digitalization. So is extremely important topic, and thanks a lot for your contribution and for your experience that you shared with us.
Well, I would like to thank you from my and Pino and Christopher, Salvatore, Mark, and Ernst, thank you very much for your insight. For your remarks on and the decision-making behind the prioritization of these investments, especially in a time of constant change. So thank you very much for a great panel.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.